I believe this guy is going to help humanity.
So would you like to just start by sharing your two experiences with us in whatever way you feel led?
Okay. Well, there's two. The first one was not, I was not dead, but I experienced everything that you would experience if you were. And the second experience, I was dead. I did die. So first, I guess let's start with the first one. The first one deals with my mother. Me and my mother were very, very close. We loved each other very much. She was my life, my world. We were very close. And I was a musician, singer, and a saxophone player. And she brought me my first saxophone. She saved her money. She didn't even have a job. She saved her money and brought me my first saxophone. So when she got sick and she died, my world just crashed. I couldn't really handle that so well. I was almost like suicidal. I wasn't trying to kill myself, but I didn't care if it happened. So I started to drink about 2 weeks after she died. I started to drink and I had a routine. I would go to the bar, drink, and then come back to my room and cry myself to sleep. That was my routine every night for about a week and a half after she died. And then this one night, I was coming back from my normal routine and going to sit on the side of my bed and just cry myself to sleep. And I turned out normally I come into my room. I was living in Canada at the time. And normally when I come into my room, I turn out the light and then I sit on the bed, do my usual routine, cry myself to sleep. Well, this particular night, I turned off the light and I went to go to untie my shoes, my sneakers. And I noticed that there was still light. And I said, that's funny. I know I turned out the light. And then when I looked up, here's the crazy part. When I looked up, it was like the sun that you see in the sky was in my room. And out of this bright light that was full of love, like it was like, the only way I can describe it really is like if you go to the ocean and you're in on the beach and one of those waves are too tall for you and it just covers your whole body. That's how it was. It covered my whole body, but it was love. And it just covered me totally, like it covered me. And then out of this big light came two smaller lights. One was a little bit bigger and then the other one was smaller, but they still weren't as big as what I would call today now. God's light was like the sun, but they were smaller lights, like stars or something. And they came out, and my mother was a smaller light, and they came out, kind of floated out towards me. And I recognized that the smaller light was my mother. And the first thing I said was, wow, Mom, it's like that over there. Wow, I was so relieved because all I knew was that she had died. I didn't know where she was anymore. I just know she wasn't no longer alive, not here. So when I saw that she was alive and everything was well, I was kind of like relieved. And then she started to talk with me, but she kind of not like we're talking now, but the same, like she kind of would shoot the conversation into my head. It's telepathy, I guess you would call it. And she said to me that I'm going to tell you a week in advance what's going to happen in your life. So you know that this experience actually happened, that you'll know that it's no doubt, it's totally real and you will remember it. So she told me, I was a musician at that time, and she told me that, and I wasn't working, hadn't worked in about maybe 2 or 3 weeks. There was no jobs. She said, a week from now, you're going to have a job. She said that there's going to be a bouncer there. And she said, this bouncer is going to be like a homosexual and a psychopath. She said, he's going to make a pass at you. And she said to me, don't get into a dispute or argument or fight with him, because my mother knew me. I mean, I was in my 20s. I call it the roaring 20s. And I don't have nothing against anybody who's gay or lesbian. But if they come on to me knowing that I'm not gay, I was going to defend my manhood, put it that way. And I wasn't scared, I wasn't looking for trouble in my 20s, but it was like, I always say a Western, like, I'm not looking for any trouble, but if trouble comes, I can handle it. So, yeah. So she said, don't get into an argument with him because he is a psychopath. And then she said, there's two probabilities that could happen, or two like timelines. I don't know, something like that. And she said, one timeline, he kills you, you would be killed. And she said, the other timeline, you would kill him, but you would go to jail for the rest of your life. And she said that those two timelines, one of them will happen if you get into a fight or an argument with him. So I said, no, Mom, don't worry. I'm not gonna fight him, because she knew me. I was really like, what? A guy come after me? What? A gay guy? What? That and knows that I'm not gay. Oh yeah, I was ready to punch him or something. But and she told me not to. So I said, okay, I won't. And then she told me another thing. She said, the girlfriend that I had at the time, I had been seeing her for about a year and a half. And she said, your girlfriend has 3 kids that you don't know about. And she said, she's going to try to have a 4th kid with you. And she said that she's going to lie about it. She would try to lie about it. Maybe say she was on a pill, which she wasn't, stuff like that. And she said, these things I'll tell you now so you know, and you'll remember that this happened. And I said, okay, Mom. And then I asked, Mom, who's this other light that's staying here? And then the light spoke to me, and it said, I'm like escorting my mother into this world. And it said, this is exact words, actually. This is an interruption in your life. And then I said, oh, wow. I said, I'm going to have to ask some questions here, because I said, hey, I got God in my room right now. I want to know, hey, who's going to be my wife? How many kids I'm going to have? Why am I here? And all that. And this, what I would call kind of like angel, said in a very neutral, calm voice, said, I'm going to answer all your questions, but you won't be allowed to remember. So I got all the answers from that angel, but I was only allowed to remember what my mother said for a week. So after that, because like I said, it was like basically like Star Wars in my room, like Star Wars. And that was all they had to say to me. And my mother said, yes, she said, I'll always be around you, but you won't be as much aware of me as you are tonight. But she said, I'll always be with you. I'll always be around you, but you won't be aware as much as you are tonight. And then they slowly glided away from me, kind of like an ice cube would slowly melt in a glass. And as they slowly pulled, the light started to leave, and they slowly pulled out, tears burst out my eyes. It just rolled down my face. And I just said, nobody's going to believe this. Nobody's going to believe me. They're just not going to believe me. It's so incredible. And then they were gone. Then the week went on, and then I got a phone call. My band members called me and said, hey, we have a job, just like my mother said. I said, oh, wow, this is beginning to be interesting. I said, okay, we got a job, huh? I said, yeah. He said, so I said, okay, we do the job. And then I went to the job to do what we call a sound check. We do a sound check before we start to play. And as I came into the club, the new club, this was in Montreal, Canada, by the way, there was this huge bouncer. Now I'm a big guy, but he made he made like 2 or 3 of me. He was like this, like the wrestling type, really one of his arms was one of my body. Something like that. He was huge. And I saw him. At that time, he didn't say anything to me. but it was daytime and it was just a sound check. So that night we came in and we did our first set. Okay. And I was kind of on guard because I was like, man, everything my mom is saying is coming true. I said, everything she's saying is coming true. And so we did our first set and then we took a break and I was talking with the musicians. They were standing around me like this. And this guy, I was talking to them like my hands are the friends. And this guy kind of walked behind me and he grabbed my butt, basically. He grabbed my butt and then he went into a corner and went like this to watch me. And I went like that. And I said, guys, did you see that? And they said, no, we just saw somebody pass you. I said, yeah, this guy just grabbed my butt. I said, I got to tell this guy something. And at first I was angry. And then I remember what your mother said. Remember what your mother said. Don't get into an argument with this guy because he is a psychopath. So I went over there and I just told him, hey man, I'm not that way. So don't touch me again, please. And he said to me, you had too many beers. That's all. And then he said, oh yeah, that's the other thing. He said, why did you tell your friends? And I said, I told my friends because that's what you did. Anyway, I'm not like that. And then I walked away from him because I didn't want to get into a confrontation because I was in my 20s and I was quite vigorous and ready for whatever. And I call it the roaring 20s. So I was like, what? But I said, remember mom. So I left him and we did one more set and then we left the club. Now, there's the interesting part. The club owner was a good friend of mine. I had worked with him in a place called Mont in Canada. That's kind of more north in Canada. And the next day, one of my band members called me and they said, did you hear what happened? And I said, what happened? That bouncer that you were talking about, he broke both the ribs of the club owner and went to jail now for manslaughter. And right then, bells went off in my head and I said, oh my God, my mom was right. Everything she said is coming true. Everything. And I didn't tell the band member that still because I wasn't even going to take a chance and tell him all the other stuff that happened to me. So I said, wow, that's incredible. Oh my God. And that was the end of that conversation. And then I said, now I'm going to call my girlfriend because I have to see if all this is coming true. That means what she said about her is true too. And so I called my girlfriend and I said, she said, hello. And I said, hello. And I said, tell me something. I said, do you have 3 kids? And she said, who told you? And I said, no, just tell me, do you have 3 kids? She said, yes, but who told you? And I said, well, if I tell you, you're not going to believe me, but my dead mother told me. And then I told her, I said, if you're going to deny your own kids, I don't know what else you could be denying. So we're finished. We're done. So I broke up with her. And then I knew that everything my mother had said came true. And I knew that she knows the future, past and present over on the other side. She knows it all. And that was the first experience in the experience, I would call it. Because in that experience, I experienced God. Yeah. And it was overwhelming. The love was like, I still can't, every time I think about it, I go crazy about it. It's overwhelming. I can't really put it into human terms, but I can only say it. It's like kind of like being on Hawaii and you're in a relaxer chair and it's the perfect weather and perfect sun and everything is happy and you feel so great and so loved. It's a perfect day. Imagine that 100 times. And that's how it is over there or close to. It is. It's no joke. And it's after that I was cured. No more depression, no more drinking, nothing. I was cured. So I was pretty happy about that. And I knew she was safe. And I knew also that she was quite powerful. She knew things and she was fine. So I was not worried about her anymore. Now, I was a musician and a young musician at that time and a singer. And there was a artist that like a mentor that I looked up to. He used to be one of the lead singers for the Platters. I don't know if you heard of that group, but it's like a doo-wop singing group, kind of like the Temptations or stylistic type of group. And he was into drugs and stuff like that. And he introduced me into drugs. And I was doing drugs with him. I'm not so proud about that because I thought that was the way to go because he was successful. He had record companies. He had everything. And he was an awesome singer, great singer. And so I was kind of like following his footsteps. I mean, because I thought that was the way to go. And I did his last concert with him. He died. And when he died, that was kind of like my wake up call. And I stopped cold turkey, all drugs, nothing anymore. And I kind of replaced it with marijuana. So that would be the only thing I would do. I'd smoke a joint every now and then. That was it. And so I had another girlfriend at that time. This was about 5 years after my mother's experience. And this one time, it was me and my girlfriend, and we didn't have any marijuana. We didn't have any. So I had a friend called me and said, well, I can bake it in a cake for you and bring it to you. And I said, oh, that would be great. I said to my girlfriend at that time, I said, well, we never had it in a cake. I said, let's try that. That sounds cool. And so he put a lot of marijuana in this cake. And he baked it. He brought it over to my apartment with my girlfriend and left. And he just left us a cake and he left. So we saw the cake. It was a chocolate cake. And we each took a slice and waited 20 minutes and nothing happened. So we said, must be a bad batch. I said, there's nothing going on. There's nothing happened. So I said, I think we probably have to eat more. So I cut half of the cake and she ate one half and I ate the other half. And then 20 minutes went by again. And we said, hey, nothing's happened. And then another 10 minutes went by and then things started to happen. But it wasn't like getting high. It wasn't that I was getting high. It was more like my body was shutting down because the marijuana was going directly into my bloodstream. And instead of getting me high, it was actually shutting my organs down. So it was like we were talking and then I would forget to breathe. I was like, oh, I forgot to breathe. And then I could hardly move. And my girlfriend at the time said, you better call 911 while we still can. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. So I went slowly and dialed 911. And they came. And in Canada, when you call 911, and if there's any kind of drugs in it, the police come. So when I called 911, I was kind of embarrassed because it's like, hello. They said, what's the problem? I said, please, I'm sorry, but we had a cake and we had too much marijuana in it. And I think we're dying. Can you please help us? So they came over and they came also with the police because the police wanted to charge us if there was any drugs there, but there was no drugs because we had ate it all. So there was nothing there. So the cops left. And then they took us in the ambulance. I was holding on to dear life, by the way, because by the time the ambulance came, I mean, I was like stiff like this, my heart was trying to beat long enough that they can get to me because I knew that I didn't have much more time to live. I was freezing up and I couldn't hardly breathe and my heart was trying to beat. So when they arrived, I was really, really happy. But it looked very, very crazy because like it was 4 o'clock in the morning when they came they took each of us in different stretchers, and there's stairs that when you leave our apartment, you have to climb downstairs like a rolling stairwell. And the neighbors, we were on the third floor, so the neighbors would see us being carried down at 4 o'clock in the morning. It just looked wild. And people, they were looking out their windows and like, what happened to them? Anyway, we were taken to the hospital. And oh yeah, there's one detail I have to remember. As we were going to the hospital, I saw my dead mother at the reception. She used to have a club, like a club of women, I would call it. And they would go out on the weekend sometime, and they had these, I wouldn't call them uniforms, but it was just a certain way they would dress. And they would go on trips together. It's like 10 women. It was like a club. And they would go on trips together. They would play bingo parties and stuff like that. And she had this on, this certain kind of shirt that I recognized right away. And as I just saw her as they were wheeling me past her in the hospital. She was looking through papers, looking for me. And I said to myself, that's strange. And then they rolled me into the hospital room, and they rolled my girlfriend into another hospital room. I was in a room by myself, and they gave me this like black drink to drink. I thought it was tar, but later I find out that it's some kind of charcoal drink, but it's black and tastes horrible, believe me. And so they gave me that, and they left the room, and I drank it all as fast as I could, because I said, I want everything to be all right. And after I drank it, I was very relaxed, because I said, they finally found me. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to live, because I thought I was a goner. And as I was relaxing in my hospital bed and by myself, all of a sudden, I just heard my heart, like it was beating right in my ear. And it started to beat very slow, boom, 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 boom. And then it stopped. And the minute it stopped, boom, I popped up. And I was standing on the side of the bed, and my body was in the bed. And at that point, first thing I said then was, I'm out. I'm out. The feeling was so easy to get out of your body. It was so easy that it was just unbelievable for me. Like drinking a glass of water or or yawning. You're out. That's it. So I was out. I said, I'm out. And then I looked at my hand. That's the first thing. I looked at my hand, and I said, wow, my hand was like, how can I describe it? It's like if you ever watch television and you turn and it's late, like, and there's no more programs. It goes into what I call emergency broadcasting. And the screen just goes shh. But if you look in that screen, you're going to see little colors. If you really take your time and look, it's not just gray. There's little colors in it. And that's what I saw, was like kind of a gray and bluish tint to my hand, but like that. It looked like that to me. And I was looking at my hand like this, just like this. And then across from my bed was like a sink and there was a drop of water just dropping. Boop. And for some odd reason, I don't know why, but what I found when I was out of my body was that I was more curious. My curiosity was like at top level. I don't know why, but it was just like that. And drop of water seemed like the most fascinating thing to me, or at least to a soul. And I saw it dropping, and I said, wow, drop of water. Wow. And I said, I want to see that up close. And my vision, it just moved up close. The minute I thought about it, just went boom, really close. And then boom, really, really back. And then this next part I can explain. It's like if you don't ride a bike for 20 years and I give you a bike, I'm sure you're going to be able to ride it, even if you haven't ridden for 20 years. That's how it felt. It's like, okay, I'm going to stop time. I think I remember how to do that. Oh yeah. And I just put my hand across in the air, just like that. And the drop of water froze in midair. I stopped time. And then here's the wild part, that really, really blew my mind was I said to myself, now I have the drop of water frozen. I said I would like to see that water from every angle. And I opened my hand and 5 of me appeared. And one was on the right, one was on the left, one was underneath the water, and one was watching. And then I was watching all 5 of me. And then this is the funny part. Then when I would close my hand, it would go back to me. And then when I would open my hand, they would all appear, boom, right at the water. And I kept doing that. Doom, doom. And then I said, I'm going to add a little shake. Doom. And they would appear and shake a little bit. And I kept doing that and doing that. I was having a ball. It turned into Bugs Bunny. Sorry. It just did. It felt like Bugs Bunny. And then I burst out laughing. The sound of my laugh was as if I was laughing in the Grand Canyon. It just went into like eternity. And I was like a kid. I was having a party. I was having a ball. I was like doing that, come back. Wow. No, do it again. Do it again. It's finally. Oh, now it's back to me. I was having a party. And then there was a voice that came kind of behind me. And I got the feeling that I started to get the feeling that somebody was watching me as I was having fun playing. After I laughed, I started to get the feeling somebody was watching me. And the voice said very gently, very calmly, if you don't go back now, you'll have to stay. But it was not an order. It was not telling me you must do this or that. It was just calmly, very neutral and lovingly. The best way to describe it is somebody gently touches your hand. That's it. Gently touches your hand. And I said, yeah. To myself, I said, yeah, I guess I better get back. The heart can't stay not beating for that long. And I guess I was out about, well, in Earth time, I would say between 10 and 15 minutes. But over there, it felt like an hour and a half or even long. I felt like the room itself, the things were the same, but it had the feeling of like an amusement, like a museum. Yeah, that's the best way. Everything didn't feel real when I was looking through it through my soul eyes. Just didn't feel real. It just felt like Frankenstein's house. Oh, there's a book, but it just felt in my soul's eyes, it just didn't feel real. And so there's one more thing I want to say is that the one thing I didn't want to do when I first had that experience, when I said I'm out, I never wanted to look at my dead body. For some odd reason, that was kind of scary for me. I knew I was dead. I knew it, but I didn't want to look at it. I knew my body was over there. And I said, I don't want to look at that. I was afraid that it might have a horrible look on his face, something crazy. And I said, I didn't want to be scared. So I didn't look at it. But when the voice told me, don't you think you should be getting back to your body? Because if you stay out here longer, you'll have to stay. That's when I just pointed myself in that direction of the bed. And I just zoomed into my body. And after that, my heart started to beat and I was okay. And that's the end of the story. Oh yeah, that's another thing. The more I stayed playing and doing that, the more like I was like, the best way I describe it like this is kind of like Alka-Seltzer. If you have those little pills of Alka-Seltzer and you put them in water, and the longer it stays in the water, the more it dissolves. Well, the longer I stayed out of my body, the more information I got. So it was swelling. It was like 1 minute I learned that I could stop time. Next minute I learned that I could divide myself and it's no problem. It was just going on and on. And the longer I stayed out, the more information. And this information I was allowed to bring back. So there's quite a few things that was like a download or swelling of information that I have now. And also there was like, I don't know if you want to call it, I guess you would call it a gift that I got when I came back. that I wasn't normal. Because after that experience, I continued with my band, and we went to a job in a place called Roland, another similar situation. And we had a band. There was a band, and it was a snowstorm, and there was nobody in the place, just the band and maybe one or two customers because of the snow and the waitresses. So we were drinking a beer. I was having a beer, and I said, "Oh, come on, waitress, over here. I'm going to tell you your future for fun." I was just doing it for fun. Huh? And I said, "Give me your left hand. I'm going to tell you your future." And I said, and I didn't know her from a hole in the wall. Didn't know her. It was the first time we played there, so I didn't know her. And I said, "Your boyfriend is paraplegic." I said, he blames you for his handicap. And I said, in 3 months from now, you're going to leave him, and you're going to meet a guy, and you're going to marry him right away. And that's going to be the love of your life, and you're going to be happy. And then I put her hand down and finished my beer. And I thought, she didn't say nothing while I was holding her hand, telling her that. And I didn't pay no attention to it because I had a few beers, so I didn't bother with it. And I just put her hand in. And the next year, we came back to that club on that we played. And she ran up to me and she said, "Did you know that everything you said was true?" I said, "What?" I said, "Can't be." I said, "Really? Your boyfriend was really paraplegic?" She said, "Yes." I said, "You left him 3 months after?" She said, "Yes." I said, "You met a guy and you got married to him?" And she said, "Showed me the wedding ring." She said, "Yes." And then the hairs went up my arm. And I said, "Oh my God, what am I? Am I some kind of alien now since I had this?" I got scared at first. And then after that, I started to help people with it. But I had some quite unusual experiences because I was kind of new to that kind of gift. And one experience was pretty hard. I don't know if you want to hear that one or not.
You go ahead. You can share if you're comfortable with it.
I'm comfortable with it. I just hope the audience is. Well, this is one that it's kind of a sad story. Well, another bouncer kind of story, friend of mine. I had a impression one weekend because he watches, like he's a doorman that watches for after hours. Cool guy. He loves my music and stuff. Good friend of mine. But big guy, super big. And I had an impression like on Thursday that my friend shouldn't go out that weekend. I said, and it was so powerful. But I said, it came to me, it wouldn't let me go for that whole day. I just knew. I said, he can't go out this weekend. And I did a gig, and he was like a doorman, what we call after hour places, which means like when all the clubs close, there's a private little place that stays open. And he was like in those, and that's where sometimes I would go after my gig because I didn't want to go right away straight home to sleep because I had so much energy after the gig. So many times I would go to what they call the after hour place and have a drink or just sit with friends and talk about the show or whatever. And I saw him that Friday and I wanted to tell him, but like I said, this is all new to me. I never was able to do that before. So I didn't know, am I just feeling crazy or funny or it's just a feeling that I should ignore it or not? And I wanted to tell him, but I said, well, I'm going to tell him not, don't go out on the weekend. I mean, this guy is huge. Who's going to mess with him? I mean, who? And so I didn't tell him. And well, this part really touches me a little bit, was that Saturday he met a girl. And this girl turned out to be like some kind of crazy chick. And he went after his work on Saturday with her to a hotel, and she waited too. He fell asleep and she chopped him in the throat. So he lost too much blood and he died. And I ended up going to his funeral. And ever since then, I said that if I get an impression, even if it's for the president of the United States, I'm going to tell him. I'm never going to not tell him. And that was a really hard lesson with my gift. So now I don't hide information. I don't know if to this day if he would have believed me or not, because he's a huge guy. Like I said, he might say, "Oh, you're just having a dream." But I knew before that he shouldn't go out that weekend. And that was it. And that's part of my gift. I can read people's energies. One time I had a guy who came for a reading, and he looked perfectly normal. I mean, you see him walk, everything looked perfectly normal. Everything was, and he said, because I do health readings also, and he said to me, "Tell me about my body." And I took his left hand and I held it and I said, "Oh, your right leg is not real." And he said, "You are real, because I wanted to test you to see if you were really real." And that's right. My right leg is prosthetic, but you can't tell because I walk normal just like everybody. I sit normal just like everybody. And that's more of a positive story. And he didn't have so much bad health. He just had some nerve problems that he had to. Yeah, I got a lot of downloads from that deaf experience and a lot of information. And some of it was probably a lot hard I would say, for people to understand, because on the other side, there is no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There's no better or better. And I would say a lot of things we believe in is not quite accurate as far as religion goes. There was a lot of information given to me about the world, energy, God, Jesuses. Oh yeah, that's another thing. There were many Jesuses, also many Christ. And there was also this Christ energy that was like just under, very high, but just under unconditional love. It was very high energy, the Christ energy. I was also given that why some people might experience hell if they die, because what you believe in this life, you're actually creating on the other side, because your soul is so powerful. And here's another one that I don't know even if you're going to agree with me, but this is what I was given, was that we all are gods, by the way. And we are part of God, but we also are gods with